welcome back to our channel. We are here to dive into Gabby and Rachel's Fantasy Suites Part 1. We got the whole crew here. I'm Zachary Reality with Allison Van Dam and, of course, Kayla Thompson. And how are you guys doing? How was your Labor Day? We got to do a little wellness check before we get into the tea.
You know, I have been talking Bachelor today. I was talking Bachelor yesterday. It's been a Bachelor-filled 2 days, so it kind of just feels like a normal week for me, honestly.
Yeah.
Same, yeah. I mean, my weekend was pretty chill. I watched House of the Dragon, and then of course yesterday watched Bachelorette. But really, the person I want to know, whose weekend is you, because you were the one who was really doing something interesting. Pray tell.
Yeah, I was living my life as I do. I actually got to stop by the Bachelor mansion in Agora Hills, like the actual mansion where they filmed the show. They were having an estate sale because they're preparing to film The Bachelor in just a couple of weeks. So they're trying to get rid of some furniture that they don't need, I guess, to save some money on storage units. And these are like the homeowners. So there was no one from the actual show that was there running this estate sale. It was just the homeowners who were, two older women who were just trying to sell some things. And guys, I forgot to bring cash because I was like, on the way going to Santa Barbara. So I literally couldn't even get anything. And I did get some good content. I got some good pictures, but I was just in awe. It was so hot. I dipped my feet in the
Yeah.
pool. I really feel like I want to go back there.
Wow.
And I mean, there might be an
Yes.
opportunity for me to work at the mansion. Allison, do you know anything about this?
Well, it was just an idea, and I was meaning nothing
Oh,
by it,
okay.
but I was just
Oh.
saying Wells is the bartender for Bachelor in Paradise, and we don't have anyone
Uh-huh.
fulfilling that role for a Bachelor or Bachelorette kind of, situation. They're there all day. They're trying to kill time at the pool. I thought it would be fun to see one Mr. Zachary Reality as the pool boy.
Yeah. Oh, I when you told me that before live, I thought you like had an in. I thought you were like asking me if I wanted to apply. You were on the administration team, so I didn't realize you were just throwing it out there. But it does sound like a
Just
pretty
an
good idea.
idea.
So I would invite you
It
guys
sounds
over.
genius.
Kayla, would you be down to come over and hang out by the
Oh,
pool at the mansion?
are you kidding? I'm getting a flight immediately. We're hanging by the
Okay.
pool. All of it. Because you just belong there. So, I mean, I feel like
Yeah,
once you're in, you're going to be running the show. So,
for sure. And Kayla, what would your entrance be? How would you show up to the mansion for a summer pool
I
party?
don't even know. I mean, definitely something very cute, understated. We're showing up fashionably late.
Oh, how
Maybe
late?
coming in. I mean, just maybe like an hour. Not too late,
Okay.
but just to
Okay.
make a
Allison, would you
statement.
get there on time?
I would, of course, be there on time. I would be far too anxious to not be on time.
Yeah, and I really suggest everybody wear sunscreen when you come to the mansion. It's been over 100 degrees in Los Angeles. We're having a heat wave. It looks like we're not the only people sweating because Tino was sweating this entire episode. And it is getting a little concerning how, the cameras and everyone is able to operate in this heat. I mean, I know when my phone is overheating, it like dies. So I don't know how they're making it work, but we're going to dive right into Fantasy Suites Part 1. We have a brand new episode tonight, so we'll be back tomorrow to review it, but we got to talk about these first few dates. So, what did you guys think? I mean, I think we kind of have to start off with Gabby and Rachel. They had their little meeting where they wanted to reassure each other that they're not going to pull a Clayton. And I was wondering what you guys thought about this because pulling a Clayton could mean two things. It could mean telling everyone you love them, or it could mean sleeping with multiple people in the fantasy suite. So, what did you guys think were their intentions going into the week?
Yeah, I think first off, this is like the one time this whole season where I felt like it was appropriate to bring up Clayton because the whole thing is about, how they're going to approach fantasy suites. And I think that's important to make that distinction. And I think with what Rachel and Gabby were getting at is I think it was more about professing love to everyone, them not doing that and them choosing their words wisely. But I think the two of them seem okay with exploring physically with multiple people but I think for me, I would just overall, if I were in their shoes, just keep everything just kind of close to the chest, like not tell anyone I was in love, not go too far with anyone, just so that after this, there's whoever I choose feels okay about the decisions I made, and I don't have to like, I don't know. I just feel like that's how I would do it, but I'm curious what Allison thinks.
Me too.
I mean, it's a good question, Zach, of, what does that really mean to pull a Clayton, or why was Clayton's fantasy suite so upsetting? Was it the love? Was it sleeping with multiple people? But then I rely back on interview portions that they had when they were first announced as the two Bachelorettes, and a lot of people were asking them what they would do differently. And I forget if it was Rachel or Gabby and what their exact phrasing was, but it was some joke to the lines of, well, maybe not like fall in love with multiple people, or not tell like multiple people you're in love with them. So that's always been in the back of my mind, especially for Rachel. I can still hear her voiceover of, he said he was in love with all three of us. And then we know Tino's been a front runner. Aven was kind of this guy that we weren't exactly sure what was behind all of that, or what was underneath the surface. And then we see their fantasy suite date in this episode, and she expresses feelings to Aven. She says, I'm falling in love with you. She, tells Gabby, I didn't get to tell him that during hometowns, but she ends up telling it to him in this episode. And sure, if we're talking semantics, falling in love versus being in love, I guess she could have that argument. But as a viewer, having watched them drag Clayton, be so heartbroken about that, and then promise they weren't going to do that, obviously things change. It's easier to say from the outside what you're going to do until you're in the moment. So I don't judge them for having feelings for multiple men, and I think that is probably very normal. But I would have liked for Rachel or Gabby to have a moment after expressing love to multiple people where they at least say, wow, I can kind of understand it from Clayton's perspective, or I can now understand what it's like to be a lead in this situation as opposed to a contestant. Because it is very different from the other side, and Clayton was dragged for that, and here they are kind of doing the same thing.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Allison
that's
wants
fair.
some justice for Clayton. I mean, I think that they probably will address that, Allison. We have a two-part after, the final Rose special. I'm sure Jesse Palmer, always getting those hard-hitting questions. I'm sure he'll bring that up in some aspect. My biggest thing going into Fantasy Suites is if I am Aven or if I am Tino, like, I want to know where you're actually at with the other guys while we're off camera and we don't have to talk to, there's no producers listening. I want to know, like, am I the one? And if you can't tell me that I'm the one at this point, like, I'm going to start freaking out and I might end up going home. So I feel like we've heard that in the past where leads actually do tell their winner pick that they're the winner if they know in the fantasy suite off camera, and then they obviously have to like do their job and finish out the show. But that's like my biggest, thought going into fantasy suites. Kayla, what would you want to know when you finally are like done with the cameras, you have quiet time? Like, do you think the lead should tell you if you're the one or if you're not the one?
I mean, I don't think that I would expect that. That's me personally. I feel like, for someone like Gabby, I think she's genuinely like, I'm not sure. And I think it's fair. I think what we saw, like, I know we'll get there, but when we saw with her and Eric, it was like, yes, I have these feelings, but that doesn't mean that I'm sure that you're my person. I think those two things can absolutely exist. So in the fantasy suite, I think they need to really like talk about post the season, what that looks like, what like your life looks like, and just kind of like focus on each other and not about, I don't know, not about the show or not about who else is there or like, am I the one? I think it's like, well, we're still figuring that out. Like the game, not the game, but it's still, everything's still in play in a way. So like kind of exploring everything further in the fantasy suite, without the cameras, without producers, like you said, and really like diving deep to really, yeah, do what we're supposed to do here and figure out, is this really real? I don't know, without like saying, well, is it me? Because I would be like, well, why are you going to be fake the rest of the season? And you might as well tell everybody to
Yeah.
go home, because that's happened too. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are my thoughts. But what do
Well,
you
it
think,
seems like
Allison?
Gabby is going to choose Eric, but I think she also said like I still need to see this through. I need to play out these relationships because you don't want to get to the point where there's still unfinished business and then you pull a pilot P and you start dating every single girl from your season because or even like a Hannah Brown, like she got back with Tyler Cameron at a point. She revealed in her book that she even went back to Peter Weber at one point. Like you don't want to feel like there is unfinished business. So it is better to finish, the show through and end those relationships so there is no more questions. But I do want to talk about Erich because he did have the first one-on-one date of the week with Gabby. They went cliff jumping, and there was like different heights that made it scarier and scarier, but they conquered it together. Just like love, the show is so corny, and they seem to really connect throughout the day and the night. But Erich was a little concerned where Gabby's heart lies with the other guys because they spent the night together and things went really well. But Erich started to doubt himself, knowing that there was other guys that Gabby still had feelings for. So what do you, think that Erich should be doing, Allison? Because it seems like he's being genuine. Is he overthinking? Is he not being patient enough? Is he right to feel this jealousy? Like, where is he going wrong? Because Gabby's now frustrated with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I can understand Gabby's frustration because of the whole, I mean, fantasy suites, the allure of them are, regardless of what you do in the suite, it's off camera, you can have your time together. So if I have someone coming back suddenly wanting to rehash something on camera, whether or not it's, you talking about your cat or some, fight we had, a little alarm's going to go off in my mind of, okay, why does this need to be in front of a camera crew and thus America? Like when I felt like we kind of settled this. But I can also understand it from Erich's perspective because, I mean, I don't know exactly how this was edited, but if he truly was the first fantasy suite date, that's at the beginning of the week. And thank God they don't make them all live together anymore. But still, you have your date. It's beautiful. It's fulfilling. You discuss everything. And then you have days of staying at the resort, not seeing the person that you're going to get engaged to within the next week. And you're in all these interview portions. You have your producer asking you to reflect on it, how you're feeling. If you think there's doubts, what do you think Gabby's doing right now? So it's one of these moments where it honestly was great television because I could see it from both perspectives of what they were bringing to the conversation, why they were frustrated. And I don't know, it was heartbreaking for me because I'm like, no. Like, I'm like, clearly you had such a great date. Like, don't let like nerves or insecurity or these thoughts like get in the way of that. Like, I would hate for that to be the demise.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah,
if only he knew. If only he knew that like Jason A was struggling. If only he knew that Johnny A wasn't ready for an engagement. Like, do you think he's worrying for no reason, Kayla?
No, I don't think he's worrying for no reason. I think that honestly, I can understand anyone be feeling this way at fantasy suites. I think the only thing is, how do you operate with those feelings? It's how do you, like, what are you going to do about that is the case. And I think that Erich definitely, I don't know, like, I think he made a mistake. I think that, because I think for Gabby, it wasn't about, like, it was about, like, trusting her and trusting, like, their
The
relationship, and
connection.
also, like, feeling like, yeah, and then feeling like she has to defend herself. And I think the other thing, too, is it kind of reminded me of, this makes sense, but it kind of reminded me of Katie and Greg a little bit. Like, I think that,
How?
you know, well, I think that Greg, like, when he wasn't getting that security back from Katie, it was like he reacted. And of course, this is definitely not the same level at all, at not even close, but it's similar in that, like, Erich did something that made Gabby be like, wait, whoa, like, first of all, we already talked about this, and you putting me on the spot in front of a camera feels like a little, like a move or something. Like,
You
you
don't
want to see what
trust.
I'm going to
Yeah.
say again. Yeah. And it's like, I think it was, I don't know. I think to me, that moment with her on the bridge was more about him than it was about her. And I think she's right in that if you say you love me, you wouldn't have really done that, because you already told me that you felt like I'm cheating on you, which is a big thing to say. Like, I think that's a big word to say, and I don't think it's very fair in this scenario. And so I think she just felt really hurt, and I think that, like, I hope it's not gonna get worse. Like with Greg and Katie, it was like it just imploded because of the
Because
miscommunication
Greg just
there.
left.
Um,
Greg dipped. He was like, "You can't
yeah,
give me this. I'm leaving." It doesn't seem like Erich
yeah,
wants to actually leave. I
no,
also think in
yeah,
Erich's defense, like Gabby is so much more comfortable with like the cameras. She's been in the driver's seat all season long, so it's like you can tell Erich has never watched an episode of The Bachelor in his life. So I feel like he's really just doing the best. He's such a normal, like cool guy. I mean, obviously he has a lot to think about at home with his dad who was sick at the time. So I mean, I think that if only Eric just like knew the situation of the other guys, it would really ease his mind. So I got frustrated as a viewer that Gabby couldn't calm him down and be like, Johnny just left. Like, I literally sent him home hours ago, because what we're assuming is that when it was supposed to be Johnny's overnight, that was when Eric stole Gabby aside. And while we're on like the subject of Johnny, I mean, they had a pretty good date. Johnny made it clear that Gabby is one of the dopest girls that he's ever dated. But Johnny said that he couldn't, get engaged with Gabby. He couldn't see a future with her, or he just wasn't going to be ready. So they decided to go separate ways. Allison, do you think that was a mutual breakup? Do you think Johnny broke up with her? Do you think she was going to break up with him anyway? What were your thoughts about him leaving?
I was going to say mutual, but then honestly, if she would have just kind of been like, totally, like, well, we can just do a final rose instead of like a ring on the finger, I think there is a chance that maybe he would have stayed. But I just think I was really proud of Gabby in this moment, because she just so clearly knew herself, knew what she wanted, knew what she deserved. And she even said that. She's like, I came into this knowing what I want and being so certain and being so set on a commitment. And she was decisive, and she's been making choices this entire season of sending guys home who weren't ready or who weren't the right guy for her. And I think the toughest part about this breakup, and even Gabby said that, was it really was about kind of timing in a way. And, maybe if they'd had 6 months, a year for him to come around to this and really feel like he was ready to get engaged, it would be very different. But unfortunately, they're in this incubator. They're in this really high intensity, fast paced, almost social experiment. And I just don't think that he could get there. And so I was proud of her for, not taking the quote unquote easy way out. There was no easy way out, but she could have said, oh, let's like continue exploring this. Let's go to the fantasy suites tonight. And in a way, this is so impressive. So whoever she ends up with, like being able to watch this back and say, oh no, like my fiance didn't just like, go to the fantasy suites. Like she really picked and chose like who she thought could be her potential husband. I think it's really impressive, and it shows just how strong she is, because she would rather leave this season alone than leave it with someone who's kind of lukewarm about her and isn't sure what their future holds.
Johnny friend zoned her. She friend zoned Johnny. This was never gonna work out. He's 25, she's 31. Like, Johnny is a cool guy, but like he cruised the whole season. Like, he was never ever gonna propose to her. Literally ever. And I think she kind of knew that too. So I don't know why she got so worked up. I mean, maybe there was more to their connection than what we saw, but it was just announced this morning on Bachelor in Paradise's Instagram that Johnny is going to be joining Paradise for the upcoming summer. And while a lot of fans are excited to see him, fans are even more concerned that he's not going to be ready to get engaged in a shorter time commitment, since Paradise is only 3 weeks, while a Bachelorette season runs about 7. So are you excited to see him on Paradise, Kayla? And what do you think we can expect from him?
I mean, well, first, I have to say, I watched this episode on live TV on cable, and The Bachelor definitely flubbed. Like, ABC showed a preview of Paradise with Johnny in it before we saw Johnny's date. And I was like, wait, what's going on? I was like, this is really weird. He had like the same outfit on with the same chain. I was like, this is really trippy. I don't understand what's going on. But they obviously made a mistake. But no, I mean, I think the thing about Paradise is that it's low stakes. You know what I mean? I think there are people who come in and I think they're all for love. They're all for like, potentially getting engaged at the end. But then there are people who are kind of just there to just because it's like, let's see what happens. It's fun. It's a fun time. It's more about like, the fun of it all and the experience of it all than the pressure of like a Bachelor or Bachelorette season where it's like, are you going to get engaged? So I think I'm excited to see Johnny. I'll be interested to see if he maybe finds someone that pushes him further, because even though Bachelor is Bachelor in Paradise is shorter time, you spend more time together, like all day, all night. So he could spend time with someone else and be like, actually, I could see, being really, really serious with this person. So I'm curious to see him.
Yeah. I think Johnny will definitely be a babe on the beach. I mean, he just got broken up with in Mexico, so now everyone's making jokes that he probably never even went home. He probably just went right to paradise, just took the boat from one beach to another. So we'll see what happens in Paradise. That comes on September 27th. And I mean, basically where we're at is that Johnny's gone. Gabby still needs to go on a date with Jason A, which will happen tonight. And then she's keeping Erich around. They did get into a little argument at the end of the episode, which we talked about. So they'll definitely have more conversations maybe tonight's episode, or maybe on the finale. But let's move on to Rachel. She is, really emphasizing the whole Clayton, situation. She's going into this week differently. I think it's safe to say that she was probably more heartbroken by Clayton than Gabby was last season. She's a lot more emotional. So this is a big week for her. And she started the week off going on a date with the perfect and charming and romantic Aven. He is so dreamy. They spent the date together on the boat. They spent a lot of time kissing, falling in love with each other. Rachel even told him that she's falling in love with him, and he said it back. They spent the night together, and it was so cute to see them wake up in the morning. They're infatuated with each other, or are they truly in love, Allison? What is your take?
I don't know. And it's just like so hard with a season like this because we've all been saying, who are these guys? Like, what is Aven bringing to the table? The biggest moment between her and Aven for a long time in the season was that one-on-one time that they had in the football stadium where they were out on that couch and they were throwing the football back and forth. And you're like, oh, there's a connection. And the only reason I was flagging him from day one is because people leaked photos of his hometown date. So we were like, oh, well, we know this guy goes to the Final Four. That's the only reason I even knew his name for so many weeks. And now we're at Fantasy Suites, and she's saying that she's falling in love with him. She's telling Gabby, oh, I wanted to tell you this, but I ran out of time during his hometown date. They're spending the night together. She's saying he's the full package. Like if I'm Tino watching this back, I'm like, oh, wow. And I will compliment Bachelor editors because the way that they spliced Aven and Rachel talking about his hometown date at the same time as Jesse talking to Tino about his hometown date, it's like you can almost see how Rachel's mind is probably working at this point. I fit so well with Aven's family. The whole visit was so great. They're so supportive of us. I'm so into Tino, but his parents really don't know about this process or about me. It's this back and forth and back and forth. So it's like, yeah, no wonder she's really trying to decide between, I guess now these three guys. I was seeing it much more with Tino and Zach than I was Aven, but he's now front runner. Like this date was obviously incredible.
Yeah, but it was just frustrating seeing Tino get this scene. I know it's not his fault. Like, it was Aven's date. Like, let's give Aven some time. Like, they really just glaze over him. They didn't put his hometown until the week after when no one really watches the Men Tell All. Like, historically, the Men Tell All is sometimes lower ratings. They are glazing over Aven with this edit. Like, he's not going to be the Bachelor. Like, they don't give him any favors on social media, on camera time. Like, they are making him seem so... just like a cute, dreamy face, and that's it. But I really feel like her and Rachel got down in the Fantasy Suites. Like, she's all for him, but I think that she might just think he's so hot, because when I saw her face light up with Tino, it just was clear that, she's fully in love with Tino. And Aven just might be just so hot to her and to me. But, Kayla, what do you think about, where she's at with Aven and Tino?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think so. The day portion of the date, even at the night portion, I was kind of like, okay. And it was being undercut. His whole date was being undercut with Tino, and that was unfortunate because I feel like I totally agree. I think they just don't give Aven any play. It's just so disrespectful at this point. It says a lot, but it's so disrespectful. But, at the night portion specifically, I felt like I didn't really feel like they were in a deep relationship. It felt like an
boyfriend,
interview
girlfriend
or something. Yeah, I don't even know. I didn't really feel the connection that I even have in the past.
That one question she asked, she was just like, Aven, are you sure that you will be able to get down on an engagement? And even Aven, he was hesitating. Like, he was just like,
it's like the way she asked it. I can get there. And yes, it was like, and it's just no problem. Don't worry, I can do it. It's like, it was just weird, but no.
So
and what I was going to say is in the morning,
Kayla? Wait, continue. I want to know if you think
So
he'll be heartbroken
yeah,
when he gets sent home,
yeah. So in the
or
morning,
if he
I
gets sent
definitely
home.
saw like their connection was way more natural, and I think having that overnight definitely gelled them more together. They definitely was exploring some stuff. And she just kept saying over and over, like, I'm falling in love with you. Don't forget, I'm falling in love with you. I'm gonna miss you. And I just felt like, okay, I feel it now to where I can believe that Aven is potentially final two and maybe not Zach, because with Zach, I'm curious to see tonight because I've like she said in the beginning of the episode, Rachel was like, I don't know if I can get there with Zach. And so I think Aven could easily step in and be that final two. But like I'm saying, final two. I think Tino is still number one. I don't know. It's what you said. She lit up when she saw Tino, and it was
Hmm.
just there's just a difference there, I think, still. But Aven, she really likes
She
Aven.
said specifically that she is in love with Tino, which she told Gabby. She
Yeah.
told all of us that she's saving for one person. She only told Aven, and I think she even told Zach that she's falling. So it is different. It's similar, but it's different. But the thing is with Tino is that there still is this family drama that's hovering over her. So while Aven might seem like the perfect choice, the easy choice, Tino has like all this, red flags like with his family. Like she doesn't even know if his family is gonna congratulate them or be happy and excited for them when they get engaged, if they get engaged. And Rachel made sure to ask Tino that, and he said that they were. He said that they would be happy. And I mean, what else did he kind of say to reassure her? And do you believe him, Allison? Because I was seeing, some people on Twitter saying that he was kind of giving like car salesman vibes.
Mm.
Tino, and this is just my interpretation of him. Tino is very set in his ways. He's very confident. I don't know where he is on the line of confident versus cocky in a way. It flares up in certain times. We see him throw a little bit of a tantrum when he's not given group date roses. I think that's the negative side, but it also has a really good positive side. And I applauded him during hometown dates because his family was throwing a lot of questions his way. And if he had given any sort of hesitation, if he was wavering in any way, I think they would have felt justified and fulfilled and right in that situation. And he did nothing but stand there strongly and was super confident in their relationship and that it would work and that they were going to, be end game or whatever you want to say. And in that way, it was impressive because you don't want to date a guy or get engaged to a guy who's afraid to defend you or your relationship to his family or won't even stand up to his family on your behalf. So, I mean, it was this moment where they were sitting next to the cliffs where he's saying, if we come away engaged, they are going to come around to it. They are going to be happy for us. And she was saying, are they going to be mad? And he goes, they're not going to be mad, 100%. They're not going to be mad at you. They're not going to be mad at me. And in that way, maybe that's a good trait he has because there might be some guys in their 20s who are like, well, if my mom or if my dad doesn't like a girl, like I'm so close with my parents that I
Yeah.
really have to value their opinion. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, no, if I'm going to get engaged to someone, especially someone who's, in their 20s or I'm not sure like how certain this relationship is, I want to know that they're willing to, be an advocate for me and us and our relationship and what we've been through. So in that way, his
Mhm.
confidence might actually pay off.
Yeah. I
I
could see
think that
that.
they are
I
such a
have
good
a Oh, go
match.
ahead. Yes.
Well, I would like
I could see
he's
that.
just so in touch with his feelings. Like I know it's a
Mhm.
lot and he does have temper tantrums, but so does she. She has a lot of like I think that they match because they both like are so in touch with their feelings. They'll be able to communicate that with each other and I don't think in the real world either of them are going to be this insecure about their relationship because there's no more producers, there's no more cameramen, there's no more other guys. Like Tino isn't going to be panicking every minute. Like it seems like his major issue other than maybe his family is that like there's just other guys here and normally you would assume Rachel isn't going to talk to other guys once they're done with the show. So I think they are a good match. I honestly think that Aven and Zach are just too laid back for Rachel. Like she really wants a man that's going to fight for her every day and I just don't think that Aven
Mm.
or Zach is going to do that.
No, I think that's a good point. And I think that I have a little bit of a different perspective, though. I think, well, one, I think Rachel also has that same kind of sticks her feet in the ground and is like, okay, well, here's the other side of it. Do you really believe what you're saying? Or are you just saying this so that, because you want it to work? And I think there's a point to be made about that because sometimes I feel like with Tino, like we saw on his hometown date, it's like, oh, they adored you. And it's like, no, they didn't. Like,
Yeah,
wait. Let's not.
they
Like, I
didn't.
think Tino does want to sometimes glaze over things or not really like unpack things. Like even on the day portion, he's
Walk
like,
around,
I don't
talk
really
around
get why she's so
circles.
nervous. Like, yeah, it's like we're beating around the bush. He's like, I don't really get why she's nervous. And I'm like, Tino, it's like he avoids it and then he wants to touch on it and then he avoids it and then he wants to unpack it. And I'm like, I think there is a part of it where it's like you can't be scared. Like there's going to be outside factors even in the real world that you know could potentially affect your relationship, and you can't like not pretend like they're not real.
So if you guys are listening and tuning
Okay.
in, we're about to get to our Q&A in just a couple of minutes. So leave in your, live chat questions, your comments. Kayla, if you want to just like sum up what you said, because we're still dying to know. So just let us know what you just said.
Yes, sorry about that. No, I think that my whole point is I think there is something to be said about sometimes Tino wanting to avoid the issue because he just wants it to work.
Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
understand that and I respect that, but I think that, you know, even in the outside world, there's going to be factors outside of even just within your relationship that could affect it, and you can't avoid those. You have to approach those and talk about it. And I think even for Rachel, it could get to a point where it's like you're not even acknowledging that I have an issue with it because you're like, oh, well, why are you nervous? Like, there's nothing to be nervous about. It's like, no, there is. There's something
Oh,
to be
yeah, yeah,
nervous
yeah.
about. And,
Oh,
you
Yeah.
I
know,
honestly can't.
even
I
outside
can't
of
date a guy
the,
like Tino. I couldn't
yeah,
do
but
it.
even outside of the hometown issue, it's like he didn't even bring up his issue about fantasy suites. He didn't bring that up to her at all. And I'm just like, not that like, I don't know, not that it would have gone well, but it's like, again, I think that's why he didn't say it because it probably wouldn't have been a great conversation. But yeah, so I just hope that Tino isn't fully that way, that he can, you know, not be so scared about what could happen if he brings up an issue, or if he like if they unpack a problem, because he seems to want to avoid it sometimes. So it's my
Yeah,
only thing.
at least we know he cares. I mean, Tino has so
Yes,
many
that's true.
issues, right? But then Aven has no issues. Like Aven's like
I
everything's
mean,
fine. We're making
exactly.
like. So I mean, it might as well make sense to go with the more difficult choice, right? Like pick Tino and all that comes with it. Oriah says I gotta fall in love with the family too, so Tino is a no. Allison,
Mm.
do you think Rachel is at all concerned about picking him because the family, or do you think she knows that that was just the environment and she's willing to give it another shot with his family after the show?
Oh, she's so concerned, obviously. I think Rachel, I see some of myself in Rachel of just like having these anxieties and having almost like just wanting it to work and having so many questions and then needing to verbalize it to the person you're with, whether that's a friend, whether that's a partner. And that's why we see these conversations going on. She's not taking it lightly that the hometown didn't go well. It's why she talked to Gabby about it. It's why she brought it up to Tino. It's why she's talking about it in ITMs. Like, it's clearly weighing on her. And yeah, he has the confidence that everything will work out, and maybe she's just hoping that their connection, and if there is a ring on her finger at the end of this, will be enough to persuade them.
Mm.
Would it be comfortable for you, Kayla, to go to those Thanksgiving dinners with Tino's family, like knowing how
Yeah,
that went?
I know. And that's the thing. That was my thought, is like in-laws can be tough. They can be really tough. And some of them can be like how Tino's parents were, just kind of stubborn, like they're set in how they think about you. They have a perspective and that's just what it is, and they're not budging. And the fact that she's kind of grouped in with this whole Bachelor world, if they did choose each other after this, I hope that they can just be open to it and not quote disown
Mm-hmm.
him, or you know, it's like that's, yeah, I don't think I'd be comfortable going to Thanksgiving. I'd be like, let's just have our own Thanksgiving, because I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
if we're
yeah.
gonna be able to get through the
Well,
meal, because
that was what I was
yeah.
thinking. I was like, if my man, if I don't like his family, then like
Mm,
we don't like your family. Like you would have to pick for
yeah.
me. Like you have to, if we don't have to talk to your family every other week. Like if you're not close with your family
Yeah.
and they don't approve, then we can see them twice a year and maintain a relationship that's not like
Mm,
too much. Ideally, you
mm,
want to love and have lots of siblings and cousins, like the more the merrier. But if it's complicated, then at the end of the day, like it's our life. We're choosing to be together. We'll keep the family at a distance and keep the peace. And it is what it is. So it really just
yeah.
depends like how important and close, Tino's family is to him, because you can still love your family from afar.
Hmm.
Allison, what is Crystal saying?
Crystal says, Aven is forgettable to the powers that be, and I am not surprised. Crystal is not surprised that he's forgettable.
He's not forgettable
That's
to me.
interesting.
Yeah. He is on a poster in Zachary's bedroom. Don't worry, Crystal.
Yeah, literally, he's getting plenty of love. And honestly, like, there are Aven fans out there. Like, I am the president of the fan club. A lot of my followers love Aven. Like, we are always rooting justice for Aven. But like I mentioned earlier in the live, like, as far as the show and the edit, he is getting so glazed over. And I almost feel like people aren't going to really remember him for time to come. I mean, I think he would be a good bachelor too if we got to know him more and they gave him more depth, but they're just not giving us a lot from him. I mean, is there anyone from this season you think would be a good bachelor, Kayla, or do you think they're better off going with someone from an older season?
Me and Blakely talked about this the other day. I think that they should have someone new, or not new, sorry, someone like different from this season, someone from the past. And I'm definitely rooting for Mike Johnson to have another shot at the lead role because I just feel like he'd be perfect. I don't really see anyone from this season really being able to carry a season, not whether it be like just their personality or them just not having screen time like Aven. Like, we haven't really been able to really fall in love with him. So, yeah,
Well,
that's my
some of
pick
us
though.
have.
Well, yeah,
So
obviously.
Deb says, do you think that Erich was hoping to talk to Gabby privately and the producer said, our way only? Allison, what do you think? Because I do feel like there has been times where leads have said that maybe they did get like secret private time off camera, but I think the producers actually instigated a fight between Gabby and Erich because I think that they need something, considering Johnny and Jason A seem to be like, we're not ready, so they almost need something to add to the drama for the end. So I think the producers have their hands in this little fight and maybe making Erich go a little crazy.
I mean, I don't think the conversation was clearly between the two of them. The producers aren't like teleprompting them or feeding them lines. I can see
Are you sure?
it being like, he again is doing all these interviews. He's stuck in his room at the hotel. If his was first, it's a lot of waiting. He's getting in his head, and maybe they're saying, well, if we could find a way for you to meet up with Gabby, or if we can find a few minutes, would you want to do that? And of course, he's gonna like want that validation. He says yes, but it's never necessarily, other than fantasy suites, a possibility of having stuff behind closed doors, to have stuff be secretive. And especially something like this where we see like the note card clearly written by production. I don't think he was ever expecting anything other than fantasy suites to be off camera. That is the only time that is fully locked down. So I think he was willing to take the risk of it being on camera in order to get that validation. And we're just going to have to see if it ends up paying off or if it just kind of blows up in his face.
See, I thought it was nice
they clearly,
at first.
Yeah.
To give them like that extra time, considering Johnny left. Like, let them spend a little bit more time together so that they can prepare for the engagement that might come. So I originally thought it was nice, but it took a left.
Yeah.
And she started
Yeah,
crying.
and I think that's what I was gonna say, is that I think it's a mix of the two. I think the producer saw an opportunity. They were like, hey, we don't have a night portion with Johnny. We got the camera crew ready, got the lights all set up. Let's see, what's the name? Erich's been saying this over and over again. Like, maybe we can set something up, for some drama, because the fact is, Deb, that they did have this conversation already privately. That's already happened. So I think the producers might have like knew this was probably not going to go well. So they were like, yeah, let's definitely make this happen. So.
And it happened, and she started crying, and now it's all complicated. And there even was a preview, because let's start kind of giving our predictions for tonight. There was a preview where Jesse tells Rachel that Gabby will not be joining her, which is leading a lot of Bachelor fans to think that maybe Gabby left the journey early. But I did see one tweet which made so much sense. Maybe he was just talking about a rose ceremony, that Gabby just won't be joining him for that specific rose ceremony. Not that she's leaving Mexico completely. And that I would be looking forward to, because they've been sharing rose ceremonies all season long. Like, I feel like some of the most iconic moments in Bachelor history are at the rose ceremonies, like Hannah Brown moving the podium, or just like the breakdowns. And I almost feel like having two Bachelorettes, other than the one time when everyone declined Rachel's rose, it almost makes the rose ceremonies a little bit more less dramatic and more just like exhausting because it's like who's on whose side, who's getting who's rose, and it's just too confusing. So, Allison, why don't you take this question?
Do you miss the guys seeing each other after each fantasy suite date? For drama, sure, but that was never part of the show. That started because of COVID when they were all staying at the same resort. And this, I think, is just so much better for their mental health and like mental stability, honestly. And I mean, we even saw that on Michelle's season. Those are some of the tightest knit guys. They still all maintain friendships. They're roommates. Like that final four, they're really solid. And that was so hard for them. I mean, I even remember like Nate and Joe going out, having their dates, coming back in. They're all sitting on the same couch. Like, don't put them through that. Yeah. So it's like, sure, if we're like stirring the pot for no reason, maybe. But like at this point, our hearts go out to them. We have learned something about them. They've been vulnerable. We've seen the tears. We're rooting for them. So don't continue to like put them through the ringer is how I feel.
Yeah. There's enough
I also
pressure
just didn't think it was necessary. Just because this final three, I mean, at least for Gabby, like Jason A and Johnny are not ready. So it's just like there's no competition. I feel like they're just trying to create drama. So there's like a finale and ending. Like I think it, like on Michelle's season, like you were saying, like all those guys were really into Michelle and wanted it to work. So that's why I loved seeing them. Otherwise I would say yes, but I think at this point you can't because it's just too obvious how it's going to end, we think. So it would just be like what's the point? Celeste says Zachary, Erich, and Gabby's fantasy suite date was amazing. I hope they will work out. Yeah, I mean, I think that they hopefully will work out if they end up together. So let's just say Tino ends up with Rachel and Erich ends up with Gabby. Kayla, who do you think would last longer in the real world? Who do you think would actually make it down the aisle?
Ooh, honestly, Celeste, Zachary, I don't have much faith in either of these relationships. I really don't. I don't know. I mean, I have to see how it pans out with Erich and how things go with Gabby, but I don't know. There's something with them where I'm just like, I'm not sure it's like really, really real yet. And then with Tino, of course, it's like the family aspect. We got to see how they act on after the final rose. I don't know. They need to come around, you know? So I don't really have much hope. I haven't had much hope in a while though, because nobody ends up lasting. No one's made it in like 3-4 seasons or something. Like it's tough.
That's true. The last few years have been tough. Yeah. I actually think Gabby and Erich are going to last if they end up getting together. We're still on the if. I actually do think they're going to last. And there are rumors that Gabby is joining Dancing with the Stars the next season. And there was even more rumors that maybe Erich could be possibly a part of that in any way if she does pick him. Of course, we're speaking hypothetical. So I actually think that if Gabby truly is joining Dancing with the Stars, that her and Erich are more solid, and that Rachel and Tino, if they do end up together, I don't have all my money that they'll actually make it work. It's possible they could have already broken up by now, which would be so sad considering Rachel's journey. But I really think that they'll last a little bit longer. But I don't know if I think they're going to get married. What do you think about that, Allison? And do you answer this question from Shared News?
Yes. I think I'm with you, Zach. I think Gabby and Erich would have a better chance than Rachel and Tino. I think Gabby's more of a realist. I think Rachel's more of a romantic. Even going back to episode 1, they were talking about previous relationships, previous types. I think Gabby just has a lot more dating experience. She has like 5 or 6 years on Rachel. And so I think if Gabby and Erich leave this together, they will be more capable of viewing this relationship as a little bit more casual, as still getting to know each other, as almost kind of dating, even if there is a ring on their finger, which will help them out in the long term, as opposed to someone like Rachel, who I can see being so happy and so excited and like jumping into wedding planning. And I just think Gabby's going to prioritize a foundation and really getting to know the man that she's with over like any sort of those bigger commitments. And this question says, if Gabby does Dancing with the Stars, is that bad for her new relationship? No, I actually think it's better because there's a chance for them to potentially live together, still get to know each other. It's not like Gabby's going back to a 9 to 5 or a full ICU nursing job where she's going to be MIA 5 or 6 days out of the week. Dancing with the Stars, while brutal and very taxing, like athletic wise, I'm pretty sure their rehearsals are like half days, maybe a full day if they like borrow rehearsal time or sneak in some extra dances. But usually it's about a half day of rehearsal and then you have your shows. And what a great opportunity to support your partner, do something fun, do something new, lean on them, have a little bit more flexibility in your schedule, live in LA. She's from Denver, try something new. Overall, it'll just feel like they're starting a life together as opposed to trying to blend themselves together too early, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think it's a great transition into, kind of separating yourself from The Bachelor and kind of, this new journey, this new adventure. Then they can share that together. I think we've seen that with Matt James, with Sean Lowe. Like, it could be a fun time, for the both of you, especially if you want to be in LA. So we wished her all the best on Dancing with the Stars. We'll have to kind of wait for that first official announcement, but there has been lots of paparazzi pictures with the mask on that we've seen floating around Instagram. Kayla, we're about to head out of here, so let us know what your final thoughts are for tonight on Jason A. and Zach in 60 seconds.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so first, Zach has me reeling. I have no idea what this man is going to say. I don't know what happened in Fantasy Suites, but I can't wait to hear what he has to say to Jesse and then eventually to Rachel. With Jason, I'm curious how he operates in this conversation with Gabby, because I don't think Jason wants to break up with Gabby at all. I think Jason just wants to kind of get her caught up on the page he's on and then maybe, fish whether or not she's willing to take a chance on just him being like, let's just explore this after the show. So I'm curious to see how Gabby responds and all of that. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
We will have to see. And I mean, we have 2 more weeks of The Bachelor. So, I mean, hopefully there's a couple guys around. If not, we might even know the winner after tonight's episode. If Jason does go home or if Zach goes home. I mean, who knows? They're kind of splitting it up into 1 week after the final rose is next week. And then there's another the week after. This is Bachelor schedule. Please get it together. We are ready to close this chapter and get ready for Paradise. But that is all we have for today. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell. If you guys are new here, we'll be covering Bachelor Nation throughout the year and all other reality TV shows. I'm Zachary Reality, joined with
Allison Van Dam.
And Kayla Thompson. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for joining our live. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.